So everyone out there listening today, we have Angela, and I'm going to butcher your last name. Tell me how to say it.
Mineau?
Mineau. Okay, I was going to say Mineau, but Mineau.
That's
Is it
usually how
French?
people, yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Okay,
That's
that's what
usually
I
how
had.
people say it, and I just don't correct them.
Mineau.
Um, if you see me like crouching down, I'm like, my cat is literally,
Oh, oh my God, that's a really big cat.
yeah, I know, right?
Holy crap. Yeah, my dog is usually next to me. Gotta love it. So if you hear a bark, he's probably looking out the window but
Oh,
no big deal. I mean, we're filming from home, so stuff
yeah.
happens. Most people film like during nap times and stuff too, so sometimes there's like little ones waking up in the background and we're just gonna
Really
go with
mad
it.
at
But Ange, thank
you.
you so much for being here today. So you're gonna share a little
Yeah.
bit about your pregnancy and your birth story, and I can't wait to hear all about it. So why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about you. Who is Angela?
I am, oh my God, who am I? I feel like we all have that like kind of like with children we don't know like who we are. But I am 33. My son is 7. I had him when I was 25, 6. I don't even remember anymore. And it's been a wild ride, but I love it. It's great. Who am I? I love like all things nature, camping. Sorry, my cat is
No,
very
you're
needy.
fine.
Um, I don't know what else to say about like who I am.
Well, I feel like you're very creative. I mean, you're a hairstylist like me, and you're fun,
Yeah.
and yeah.
No, I'm super creative. I feel like I'm introverted, extroverted. I feel
Mhm.
like I'm like a bunch of different things.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I feel like maybe it's just like hairstyles in general. We're a lot, but it's really good stuff. Good stuff. That's awesome. So
You have
you
to
live
be.
here in the capital region, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you work in Albany.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
work in Albany. I really love it there. I used to work in downtown Albany, and that was a wild ride. I loved it, but so glad to not be in downtown.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy down there.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. I know. I like my suburbia, Clifton Park,
Oh yeah,
for
it's a
sure.
beautiful area. Yeah.
So tell us about your son and like how did this all begin? So you had him at a pretty young age, at least for today's standards, I guess. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your pregnancy.
Um, Pregnancy was crazy. Not planned. Me and my husband were married about 8 months, and then I got pregnant. Um, and it was definitely a surprise. And I, at that point, wasn't sure if I even had wanted to have children. Um, Having children really made me super nervous. I'd never been around babies or children
Hmm.
ever. My husband actually had more experience with kids than I did.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, he grew up with like not like a large family, but he had like an older brother, but his house was kind of like the house for like all the kids to go to. He had cut younger cousins that he like sometimes watched. And my family's just like a little bit smaller, and my mom and dad are like pretty like to themselves. We didn't have a bunch of like, kids and friends and play dates happening. Um, so it definitely made me a little nervous. But being pregnant was probably I always say being pregnant was the hardest part for me about having a kid. I'd rather give birth any day of the week. Just
No
give birth.
way. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that
I
before.
hated it. I hated
Were you really
being
sick or like what happened?
I wasn't sick. I feel like I'm complaining so much for like no reason. It was really my third trimester. I'm a
Yeah.
sufferer of anxiety, like super high anxiety. And I really am, I feel like I've definitely, as I've gotten older, learned how to function around it.
Mm.
And on top of that is like forcing myself to like do things. But with the anxiety comes my insomnia. So I'll have panic attacks at night.
Oh, wow.
My mind races when I'm trying to fall asleep, thinking about things that like, something that's been like weighing on my mind. Maybe it was like, a client that like the hair just didn't go right that day and I just
Yeah.
can't stop thinking about it. Finances, just anything like that. And so with being in my third trimester, I think with the impending doom of having to give birth,
Yeah.
that was a lot of stress. And on top of that, finances, daycare,
Yeah.
being a mother was probably the most stressful time of my life.
Yeah.
So I had a really hard time sleeping. And of course, I called, my OB office, and they pretty much don't do anything for me. Tell me to get used to it. Like, they don't tell me that I can take any medication. I felt very lost in
Mm.
what to do. And if I don't sleep, like I really can't function. And so that's why I really just didn't love being pregnant,
Yeah.
and on top of being uncomfortable,
Right. Right.
that
So when you had your son, what's his name?
Colton,
Colton. So when you had Colton, did this anxiety like go away or did it heighten more now that you had an infant?
it actually went mostly away. Immediately after I got home from the hospital, like I was able to sleep. I mean, I did have a little bit of, trouble sleeping because at that point I still didn't have outlet for what I could do. I wasn't on any depressive medication, anxiety medication,
Mm.
anything. But at that point, I thought my problems went away because,
Right.
okay, I gave birth. It was my hormones, it was anxiety, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It did not go away, which I found out actually like a year or so later, um, with stress from work that really kind of brought that insomnia back on.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was to the point where like I couldn't even sleep in my own bed. I was uncomfortable. I was sleeping
Mm.
on the pull-out couch,
Yeah.
which sounds insane, but we put like this giant foam topper on it.
And it helped? Well, what do you think it was about your bed? That's kind of weird. I mean, well, third trimester is hard. You're uncomfortable, right? So sleeping isn't great anyway. But then if you're adding like all that unknown anxiety on top of it, yeah, I mean, that's bad. And then lack of sleep is going to produce even more anxiety. So it sounds like it was
Yeah.
just like a losing battle in the end. But I mean, that I feel like this is so different, Angela, because I feel like I always hear about like anxiety after having the baby because you can get postpartum anxiety, like that type of thing. So this is like the opposite. So when you had Colton, you brought him home and you felt good.
Yeah, I felt better. My husband, such an amazing, amazing person, is the most fantastic father I could have ever asked for. And we really worked on a schedule where we took shifts at night.
Mhm.
So I had like a plan, like, okay, like I need sleep. So I'm gonna go to bed like as soon as I get home from work, I'm gonna eat food, go to bed because I don't know how many times Colin's gonna get up tonight.
Yeah.
So he would stay up with him and put him to sleep while I was asleep. And then
Mhm.
I would take like, you know, I would take like second shift. Like,
Yeah.
so like when Colton got up at, 2 or 3, that's when I would get up, be like, okay, like great. If I'm up now for the rest of the day, I still got 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then that would allow him to sleep. So let's say he went to bed at, 11 or 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
That means he's getting to sleep through it. And it really, really helped having a team player on my side.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that is huge. We did the shift thing too. And it's really like in that very beginning stage of newborn life, it's really the only way because they're going to get up, they have to eat, until a certain age. So it's like, they're going to get up. So how can we plan around this and really be partners in this? And it is hard, like if you're nursing, if you're doing formula, it's a little bit easier. But if you're nursing, I mean, if you can still do it though. You can pump and get, milk or, just be woken up to eat. There's definitely a way to do it. But I agree. It was a lifesaver to get that like consolidated time of sleep. It really made a great difference in my mental health. I remember that for sure. Now you said work. Did you go back to work pretty quickly?
I did actually. I went back to work, I think when he was 7 weeks old.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
honestly, I was so ready. I wasn't sure even though, I was like, maybe I'm gonna want to stay home with him, maybe I'm not gonna want to go back to work, but I really felt like I needed to go back to work. And at that time I wasn't a hairdresser. I worked in a medical office.
Oh, okay.
Um, the only thing that I wish that I had done differently is not go back full time and found a part-time job or switch to part-time within the same practice I worked at.
Okay.
Um, but I think that part of postpartum for me was being terrified of being like around my son all the time because
Mm.
I felt like sometimes I didn't know what he wanted.
Mm.
And consoling him. Turns out he had a little bit of like a milk allergy. I did breastfeed for about 3 months, and then we kind of went with formula to kind of piggyback off of that.
Mm.
So he would projectile spit up
Mm.
pretty much every time he ate.
Mm.
So we had to switch him to a soy-based formula,
Oh, wow.
um, and it was very expensive formula. And we
Mm.
could only get like one specific brand, and it was like $30 for like a little thing. And
Crazy. Yeah.
it was crazy. I had to stop breastfeeding because I had gotten ill, and the medication that they had put me on diminished my milk supply. So
Okay.
I just kind of dried up, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, thank God that we have these like amazing formulas nowadays though where we can choose the one that we want to use and sometimes, they do have to be like medical approved type of thing. My nieces had to do that. I don't know if it was soy based, but they were allergic to something and they were projectile vomiting as well. But yeah, I remember it being expensive, but I think their insurance covered it, which is a help because again, when you're saying you're paying $30 for this and they're eating, every 2 to 3 hours, that's a lot of formula.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
So you said you were in the medical field. So what made you switch to being a hairdresser?
so me switching to be a hairdresser, definitely the best decision I've ever made. Besides, getting married and having my son.
Yeah.
But I just was tired of working for a set rate. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hard worker. Like I'm really like I can put my all into something, and I really just wanted to see the benefits of putting my all into something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, like I'm really working my butt off at this office, but I'm still only making however many dollars an hour.
Right.
And
Right.
I was just over that.
Yeah.
I was ready for a change. I was not somebody who was super into the beauty industry at the time. I really wanted to go to school to be a makeup artist.
Mm.
Um, so I was like, okay, like let me go to cosmetology school, get a license, like, worst comes to worst, if I decide that I want to go back to working in the medical field, then I will have being a cosmetologist to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I could do it on the side if I wanted, that's what me and my husband discussed. And I was really fortunate that he had a well enough job that I could go to school for full time. And my son was 6 months old.
Okay.
And
Okay. Did you do
it was
nights or
crazy.
did you go full time?
I went full time. The hours weren't bad though. It was from like 8 to I think like 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Um, so it was almost just like having like a place like a part-time
Right.
job.
Right. Now, did your son motivate you to want to work for yourself, or was this just something that you had always wanted to do and you were ready to do it now?
It's not something that I always wanted to do. It was in 2016, I feel like the makeup industry just like everything was so blown up with
Mm.
contour and brows and liquid lipstick. And I think that really inspired. I mean, definitely my family was, something I was always thinking about.
Right.
Um, I actually before that had toured going to like a massage therapy school.
Okay.
Um, that was like before I had my son. So I was kind of already dabbling in the idea of doing something along the lines of that kind of service-based industry. But the ultimate reason I didn't go to massage school was because of the toll it took on that the massage therapist's body in the long run.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
couldn't
have
see
heard
myself
that.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as you've learned, like being an entrepreneur is really hard, but it's also so incredible, especially when you do have a family that you can make your own hours, and like you said, those hours that you put your all in, you really see the difference in your income.
You really do. And it's like, I don't think people even realize that we are on 24/7. I mean, it's to the point where I've learned to have a do not disturb on my phone after
Yeah.
8:30 because if I get a message from a client, I mean, I'm in my like, okay, it's time to get ready for bed zone.
Oh yeah. You got to set up those
So,
boundaries, girl. We're going to have to talk.
oh, I am terrible at setting boundaries.
Well, you're newer to it. I mean, this is my second time around building a business. So you learn from your mistakes for sure. And those boundaries aren't saying that you don't love your job or you don't love your clients. It's literally just like you have to have those boundaries for your health, to be able to show up for your family and to be able to show up for yourself and your needs. So, yeah.
I actually think that I might set it now for probably like 7:30 for do not disturb because if I get a message from a client and like even if it's just like, oh hey, like what's going on, like hey, like what can I use for this, and it's like I in like work zone, it's like messing up my whole like downtime to
Yeah.
like get ready for bed.
And that's your family time too. Mine's actually 6 o'clock. My notifications go off, and my friends and my clients learn too. They just know like at 6 o'clock, Megan's not going to answer you until the next day. And really, I mean, it's going to be okay, right? Like you really have to have an answer right there at 6 o'clock. If it's an emergency, someone can call me. And that's that. Yeah. But I mean, you got to do what works for you. But yeah, I mean, it does. It takes you out of that zone where you are home and you're with your family, whether you're eating dinner or getting ready for bed. Like you want to be focused. Because even if someone's being like, I need an appointment, that's great. And I really want to schedule you, but I can do that in the morning too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think somebody called me and I don't know. I actually didn't call the number back. I'm thinking like they know that they can text number this is, they can text me. It's not right. Really like
Well, you're breaking up a little bit, Angela. Are you there? Are you there?
yeah. Can you hear me?
I can now. You were breaking up a little bit.
That's so weird.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see you now. It came back. Oh, that is weird.
Oh, that's so weird. You didn't glitch out on me at all.
Oh, huh. Well, you're there now. So what were you saying? Someone
Sorry.
called you and...
Yeah, somebody called me and I had just gotten home from work. I think it was like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not answering that.
Yeah, and it will be okay. They'll leave you a message. And I just feel like, I mean, do you feel like your life is completely changed by taking that risk and doing what, you thought was right for your family financially and like opening your own business?
Yes. It's been the most amazing transition I could ever ask for. Even switching from commission to booth rent, that this has been the biggest life-changing year of my life. I have been able to do more things. I have been able to spend more time with my family this summer. I just love that I can, I could take off whatever day I want. I can leave the salon early if I don't have clients. I don't have to stay there. And ask for permission to leave. I've made more money not having that middle person, taking that, commission. I mean, not the commission, but
Yeah.
taking part of my check. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you have Colton now and he's 7. So did he change your view of having a child? Like, you obviously would never regret having a child, but you said you weren't sure that you wanted to have children. Has it changed your view of having children? Is it what you thought it would be, or is it completely different?
It has. But I do find that I have trouble like interacting with children that are not my son's age.
Okay.
So if I came across a 2-year-old, I would that I didn't know that wasn't a niece or nephew.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "What are you into? What are the kids into these days?"
Well, you're saying you don't have anything relatable to talk about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But
But
my son, he is absolutely amazing. He has an attitude right now. I don't know what happened. It's probably my fault. Um, but he is not, he's so smart and he's going to be an only child. We don't plan on having any more. Um, just because we really love, I mean, financially it's hard too.
yeah.
Um, and me and my husband want to be able to retire like very comfortably. So
I mean, I only have one. I mean, I think that's just totally the preference of the parents, right? It's like what works for you, and yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Financially, it is definitely. I mean, kids are expensive. Life is expensive. Um, but yeah, it's just what feels right for you and your family.
yeah, and daycare is
Oh
expensive. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
that's the worst part. I mean, our daycare was absolutely amazing, still expensive.
yeah,
Um, I think that, his first year going to daycare, we were spending almost, I mean, like $9,000 for full time for the year.
yeah.
And that's probably not even bad compared to some things that I've heard.
Well, yeah,
So
and
I
then if you
couldn't
have multiple
imagine.
children, yeah. I mean, I think that's like
Yeah,
a really, really common issue here in America is childcare is just so expensive. Basically, your whole entire income, is going towards childcare. I remember when my daughter went to kindergarten, I was like, "Oh my God, we're rich. Like, we're so rich. I have like 10 extra grand in my bank account."
we
Right?
got
'Cause
cars. We
I'm
bought,
like, I felt so rich.
we, and they weren't even new cars. They were just used cars. And we
Still
hadn't even
though.
car payments. We've been just
Right.
driving the same beat up things that we've been driving since before we had him. And he went, we could afford 2 car
Isn't
payments
that
with
wild?
how much that we were saving.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it is. I mean, obviously you still have to pay for childcare, when they're still that young, like vacations and school vacations and all that stuff. But it's just so much more money back into your life that you save for sure.
I know when he
Um,
has to go to daycare during like any of like the school breaks, I'm like, oh my God. Like some
or even
of
paying a
so
babysitter. I'm like, oh my God, I have to pay a babysitter. What?
like how much are your rates? I'm like,
I
wow.
know. God, I used to babysit for like, I don't even know, maybe $5 an hour.
Yeah, I think like some people they're like it's like $20 an hour, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
8 hours. I'm like, no, I'll just stay home. I'm not going anywhere.
Right? It does get easier though in that aspect because like Gray is about to turn 9 and I mean not that she can stay home completely by herself, but there's she can be here and my husband's working from home and I don't worry about her. So it gets easier in like saving money in that aspect for sure. Now like so people out there listening today, what would you say to them if they're unsure if they want to have children? Like, were there any, I mean, I know your pregnancy was a surprise, but was there anything that you and your husband like talked about or that you did to try to figure out like what you wanted?
So like when after I found out that I was pregnant
Well, no, like
or before
before,
that,
because, right, you were saying you weren't sure if you even wanted to have children.
I we were very up in the air, and I think that the biggest thing that it comes down to is that you always say that you want to have more money
Mm.
before you get pregnant. And honestly, me and my husband, we started out with very, very little money. And somehow, I don't even know, we made it work and was able to send him to daycare almost full time. At one point, he was full time at daycare. Um, and I really, really don't know how we made it work. We lived in like a trailer park in um in the country, um like up near like Thatcher Park area.
Mm.
And we had like just bought a trailer after we got married, and we it wasn't the best like house ever, but it really helped us save money. Um and everything just kind of falls into place. I mean,
Yeah.
just like being determined, hardworking, being mindful of your spending too. Me and my husband aren't
Hmm.
very, big spenders. We really try to keep it down to a minimum. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying if you even have any question like whether you want to have kids or there's a chance that you do, just go for it and you can you can figure it out, you can make it work.
Yeah. I mean, if you're thinking about having a child, I think it was definitely the best thing. Colton's the best thing ever. They just bring so much joy
Mm.
to your life. And yes, it's hard. Like it's definitely hard, but um the good outweighs how hard it can be at sometimes, and it's so rewarding.
Hmm.
I think that when they fall asleep on you at night,
Yeah.
sometimes that grows slimmer and slimmer as they get older. But,
Yeah.
once in a blue moon, and they just fall asleep and you just hear their little like snore, and it just like fills your heart
Yeah.
with the most amount of joy.
Yeah. It is. It is so amazing. And sometimes I think just like, oh my God, I am raising another human being and hopefully I raise her to be a good human being and like she can actually like Colton could go out and change the world. Like he could be anything he wants to be and could make such a huge difference in this world and like we get to be a part of that and to be like the main part of that, right? Because like we're the example for them and it's like no other opportunity, right? Whether you have one kids or six kids, like we get to be that person to do that and it's so cool.
And you get to be proud, so proud of their accomplishments,
Mhm.
even when they first learn how to write the word cat.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't stop there. Every year there's new accomplishments and new things to be so proud of. And of course, there's some times where they fall, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And it's like they even teach you how to be a better person,
Yeah.
and everything is just so different.
Yeah. Well, and they're like, I don't know about you, but like my family is like my cheerleaders, right? So like you almost like you birth these little cheerleaders that are there for you. Like we're there for them all the time, but they're always rooting for us and like always supporting us as well. And it's really, really cute, especially when they're little. But I'm hoping that continues too, like as they get older.
No, I agree. I think Colton is also a cheerleader as well. Especially when I ask my husband if I can buy something and he's sitting there and he says yes. Like he and he's saying in our finances.
Well, and he's also seeing you build this business that you're building right now, and like that he's gonna take that with him to be like, wow, look what my mom did, and I can do the same. No matter what he wants to become when he grows up, but he's always gonna have that, as an example, which is so so cool.
And I think it's also amazing to watch your partner to become the person that
Mm.
they become after having a child. My husband came from, his dad wasn't always the best dad, and I think that him having the chance to change the the pattern
Mm.
of what he went through, and
Yeah.
he gets to redo it all, but he's the person that is giving my son the most incredible childhood. As annoying as they can be sometimes, I sometimes just have to be like, you know what? This is a memory.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that you just said that. And I hope your partner listens to this because that is just such a nice thing to say. And I think you're right. And I think that's so huge that he is breaking that pattern, that he came from and, really trying to change how he is as a dad. I mean, that's so admirable. I love that.
He's an amazing, amazing person. And as much as they annoy us, you really just have to like stand back and look at the bigger picture
Yeah.
and say, you know what? Like whatever that situation was that was bothering me or annoying me, I just know that this person is an amazing person,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll just let that little issue go.
Well, none of us
Like,
are perfect, right? We all have our issues, I guess you can say. And I think like being his partner and like, you know, having a partner, you compromise, right? And you look past your flaws, and that's why they're our partners. They accept
oh
us
yeah.
solely for who we are and we accept them. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Angela, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate this. And I feel like I got to know you so much better.
Yeah, we should chat more often. This was great.
Yeah, for sure. We can definitely talk boundaries and business over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next time, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much and I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to share before we go?
No, I just thank you so much for having me on. I really do like talking about family and, my, like, I always love sharing things. I'm definitely an open book. So, if anybody has any questions, you can always reach out to me too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll link your Instagram in the show notes and whoever wants to reach out, they can definitely contact you on there.
Okay, thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks Angela. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.